Zeo, In Space, Dino Thunder, Time Force, they're all good seasons. We all enjoy them for lots of reasons, but they're not perfect. No show is perfect. There's always that one thing that sticks out of your mind where they do something dumb or lazy to get episodes made. Sometimes it's not the writer's fault. It could be caused by the Super Sentai footage, budget issues, producers want it done a certain way. There's always some behind the scenes reason. Thank you, Scottish Lion King, for the topic, and if you have a suggestion for a future idea you'd like me to do, leave a comment below. I might pick yours.
Reusing Punchy Pig.
We love when they bring back heroes. It's also great to bring back villains. You can enjoy the bad guys just as much as the heroes. They're funny, dramatic, have a full arc, or even a justification that you can get behind. I didn't have a problem with them creating a new Pudgy Pig. The US footage was fine. Giant pet pig wandering around, Bulk and Skull getting a hold of it. Normal MMPR comedy, right? But it all fell apart when they went to Japanese footage. Sometimes this could work if you're clever enough at editing, but because the Pudgy Pig was a popular monster from the first season, you're gonna remember what happened more. Also, what if they re-aired the first episode as a double feature special? You're screwed. I get it, it was season 1, they didn't really film US fights often, but if you're gonna tell a sequel story, you gotta shoot new material. They had the suit, cutting out the weapons being eaten in the old footage. I saw that when I was 8. A kid's gonna notice. It's the reason why I never liked this episode. The cast did good work, it should have just stuck to them. Just don't use their powers, that's not a big deal. I love the characters, I don't always have to see the suits and a Megazord fight to feel fulfilled.
Ditching the Dinozords.
That sweet, sweet Thunder Megazord money. I get it, Bandai and Saban wanted to start selling the new toys for season 2. However, it caused a problem in the show where they had a leftover Jutsu footage of fights. So they had to split the footage for many episodes, causing really poor and constant reuse of material. Most of those fights are bad. What they could have done was still use Megazord for those remaining fights. The Thunderzords transformed from the Dinozords. They're not gone. Every now and again, pepper Megazord fights into season 2 and finish off the footage. Bandai could have sold Megazord for a few more months alongside Thunder Megazord, and Megazord fights would have felt better. They could have kept the season 2 cockpit and say they redesigned the cockpit even in the season 1 head. That's better than crummy fight footage.
No team conflict.
This is more of a general problem of Power Rangers, but mainly in MMPR. Having teamwork and friendships in Power Rangers is very important. We won't like the characters if there's no connection. But MMPR went way too far. The only time when the Rangers ever disagree with Zordon or themselves was when they were under a spell. It's not realistic. Everyone's going to have disagreements, especially towards Zordon. His rules of not using their powers for personal gain is open to a ton of complaints. A perfect example is this. Say Jason's mom was dying. You're telling me Zordon would have Jason call an ambulance and not teleport her to the hospital, or use advanced alien stuff that Zordon could know. That would cause an argument up to space. Tommy joining the team. Don't tell me everyone would be happy about it. Slowly the show eventually got away from that. Unfortunately, sometimes it went back to that ninja steel. But it's a problem that you can't ignore, and it's not a kids show thing. I remember 1992 X-Men and the constant arguments with Scott, Logan, Jean, Jubilee had all the time. You can't excuse the perfect nature of the MMPR cast. It doesn't work well. It never works no matter what year it is.
Bringing back Kendricks.
I'm torn with this, but I was super mad when Kendricks came back at the end of Lost Galaxy. Maybe if it was executed differently, I would have let it pass, but it wasn't. It just wasted her death. The writers had to do it, and it was a great death. She prevented Psycho Pink from killing Cassie, and guided the Quasar Saber to Corone, in return redeeming her. Kendricks' death was impactful to so many areas of Lost Galaxy, but they simply reverse it in the last 2 minutes of the finale with no explanation? It causes more questions. Does this mean that the Lost Galaxy Rangers are immortal? Does anyone using the sabers get saved inside when they die? So then where are the past people that use the swords? Is Kendrick special? What? None of it makes sense. Then the powers are usable between the two, so couldn't Mike use Leo's saber as well? She should have stayed dead.
Maury, Katie, and Lucas.
Everyone remembers this. There's 6 Rangers. At best, 4 of them are used. There is a reason why. A lot of Time Ranger story couldn't be used in Time Force. ISA had a terminal disease, and Katie doesn't work with Domo's personality. So combine these problems with Domo and ISA being neglected in Time Ranger 2, Bon Voyage, Blue, and Yellow Ranger. It sucked. At best, they got 2 or 3 episodes that featured them. Most people hate Legend of the Clock Tower. It's still not fair. I liked all of them. Each one had something unique about them, especially Katie. I had wished they had delved into more of her family part of history. She worked best at helping out someone. I would have liked her stumbling into another time portal that throws her into the year 3000, but days before Rancic did his breakout, she had to make up a decision to altering the timeline to stop Rancic from going to 2001, or say Wes would end up dead because the changes in history get Silver Hills destroyed by some other PR monster due to no Ranger team existing in 2001. Have Lucas lead the team sometime. See him progress from being stuck up to working better with people. It would have been great if Lucas was the one who turned Nadira to the good side. Like we found out that he did like her in secret. Anything for the 2 characters. It was so disappointing when you see Wes, Jen, and Eric get all this stuff, Trip at least being used for a lot of things, and you see these 2 do nothing. It's like a completely different show.
Zane missing in the Psycho Ranger arc.
This was a compound problem throughout the season. This is where the Sentai footage caused huge issues, but it still doesn't make it right, nor does it make much sense. You have really good villains, they screw with the Rangers not only in suit, but also as civilians. They do everything you'd like to see the villains do, but they basically ignore the Silver Ranger? What was up with that? They should have made a Silver Psycho Ranger for real. They go and blow that money on that dumb Carlos on Call episode. They spend money on a kid character who is annoying for one purpose 5 episodes later to push a button, but they can't pay for a Silver Ranger suit and a fight. Zane suffered a lot because of him constantly leaving, so when you finally have a really good arc, I want to see him used. When it doesn't happen, I get disappointed.
Ryan's journey.
I understand why this happened. Titanium Ranger is all US footage. Ryan couldn't always be in the series, so they had to write him out. That's fine if it was handled differently. The problem was the lack of suit footage, but that doesn't mean you have to get rid of the character. I never understood why they did that. Yeah, okay, he has to go and find out the information on the tattoo. He has to break the curse, great. But I want to see that journey. You set up this really good character, you want us to get invested, but then you just throw him away? Why would you do that? If you couldn't afford to shoot US footage in the suit all the time and couldn't show his journey, have him work in the Aqua base. You could have kept the story going. He could have still done research over the internet, look up texts, go to the original tomb, civilian fight some monsters. There was a lot of things they could have done to keep Ryan in use the whole time.
Billy not the Gold Ranger.
This was messed up from day one. When Zeo started, they ran into a problem. You have 6 Rangers, but there's only 5 powers in the beginning, so one of the Rangers has to wait. Which is fine. Billy was the logical choice. He can help in the power chamber, keep everything working till they can make a new power. But to keep him on that long, all for Jason to get the powers, was beyond stupid. Again, this is not Jason's fault. Him coming back was fine, but it wasn't fair. Billy did a lot of stuff for the show. He tried everything to save the original power coins, got people out of binds all the time, and they couldn't give him the Gold Ranger powers. When I was young, the first thing I thought was, this guy that can split into 3 people, duplicate the Gold Ranger powers. Why not have them rotate? Jason take an episode, Billy takes an episode. It's something different to the 6 Ranger powers. I wouldn't have minded that, or have it that because the powers were meant for 3 beings, one person can't use it for long, so Billy and Jason would alternate. That's all they had to do. I think that would have been fair. It would still work with the Japanese footage and still lines up with what they did at the end of Zeo, ignoring all the behind the scenes problems. This wasn't right for Billy.
Lights of Orion.
Where do I begin with this one? No matter what way you look at it, none of it makes sense. Why did the Lights of Orion go to Terra Venture in the first place? For that to work, they had to have a connection to the Rangers or the monsters. Those are the only 2 explanations. We know that the Magna Defender was following them, so they obviously didn't want to pick him as their user. He's not worthy, which is fine, it's explained later. If they're drawn to the Galaxy Rangers, why the whole hiding nonsense? Are you testing the Rangers? But why do that? If you found them worthy to go there in the first place, then you don't need to test them. The second problem is they endanger and get people killed. Everyone is going after your power. We have to assume the Lights have a noble energy source that has to have some right and wrong thought process. So the best thing for you to do to test the Galaxy Rangers is to come aboard, play hide and go seek and get property destroyed, people nearly suffocated, and people killed. That's what I got from it. This was caused by the Giga Man footage to a degree, but because of this being in space, it makes things worse and nonsensical.
Tommy stuck in suit.
Jason Frink had to go back to America for a short time, so this required Tommy to get frozen in amber and then stuck in the Ranger suit. The writers were in a corner. You got footage you need to use, an actor that has to leave. What can you do? It was an interesting idea, but it wasn't executed correctly. It brought up more questions to the audience. The first thing you think of is, why not take your helmet off? How do the Ranger powers get frozen? This is kind of drastic, but shoot him enough so that the powers fail. And if that doesn't work, well, you just created a God mode for the series. You can think up of a lot of things that start making this worse. That's why I hated this the most. I would have had Megazord capture Tommy in a very similar way to what happened in Zeo, chained up with a helmet on top of him so that Frank can still do voice work, but use him to power the genome randomizer. This strain of constantly taking DNA from him would cause him to go into the coma and still have the fighting spirit episode play out. It would have avoided the dumb issues fans have with this, and they could have still done backstory, instead of the stuck in amber arc, the search for Tommy. I praise a lot of seasons, people can get tired of it, but I don't want to always show one part of the series on this huge untouchable pedestal while the other seasons I'll throw into the dirt. That's not fair. I always try to be objective as possible, but it's not easy. There's things that I love about Ninja Storm and RPM, so it always looks like I suck up to them, but I'm never gonna say they're masterpieces. There's many more flaws in good seasons. I may make another top 10 in the future to cover more. What do you hate in good seasons or the movies? Do you agree with mine, or do you think my choices aren't a big deal? New episodes every Monday. Next week, the worst plot forwarding episodes.